curriculum of the students that are in the BA program. You're doing the same core courses, but then you go on and you start also kind of dipping your toe into a lot of the other things that we offer. It has a higher requirement for credits, and I mean, higher requirement of art credits. You're not taking more credits than other students, don't worry. But you have more credits that you are taking that are art and design related. A BFA is considered, you know, like a little bit of I guess a notch above because of it being highly focused in art curriculum.
Yeah, and it also gives you one more letter in your degree.
If you're interested in continuing your education as well in graduate school, some MFA programs will look for a BFA as the bachelor's level degree. So if you know right now that that's something that you want to pursue, it wouldn't hurt to move over to the BFA, or to apply to move over to the BFA, just to sort of have that, you know, ready.
That's right. The BFA program does have an acceptance procedure. So after you would be accepted to Wilkes University, you would be invited to submit a portfolio and a short essay, just discussing a little bit about what your goals are for earning a BFA. It is reviewed by 2 faculty members, so we're all right here. You can certainly see us. We would be the ones looking at your portfolio and letting you know. I am the person that helps you through the process. So if this is something that you think you might be interested in doing, you can certainly reach out to me, and I'm the person behind the emails that you would be getting. But I'm essentially here to help you all along the way. No question is too small. I often get very simple questions such as, like, how do I format my artwork for you to see it? To, like, you know, kind of giving you a little bit of feedback before you, you know, submit your work for approval. But we try to keep it a relatively quick process. It takes a little bit of time. Usually it's the organization of me getting your portfolios to my colleagues here. But we do try to keep it a quick process as we kind of get that off the ground. So I'm the person that will be helping you out, so feel free to reach on out.
All right, Heather, thanks. Liv, any questions on that? Because I know I thought you were interested in that.
Yeah, I'd be leaning towards the BFA for mine. And when I was looking up like the cognate minors for the BA, are you limited to any minors going the BFA route, or can you have the same options? No,
so the BFA, the requirement is the art cognate minor, because it does fall within the amount of courses that you need to take to get to that, you know, 65% of the creative courses for the BFA requirement. So that is one of the I guess, curricular differences. The BA, you do have the option of taking any of the cognate minors, but the BFA is focused solely on the creative side. So the art is the only option in that one.
Okay.
It's certainly not to say that you can't minor in any one of those other areas, though, just as a standalone minor. Many of our students have, in addition to their cognate minor, which is built into your core curriculum for the degree, many of our students will pick up minors in things like women's studies or English, or I'm trying to think, marketing. There's a lot of marketing minors. So if you're really interested in building out your area of study just beyond what you choose as your cognate minor or your BFA, it's attainable, and a lot of people do it.
Okay.
Yeah, certainly it's something we could talk about and what that means to, you know, your time here. Speaking of minors, and if you were in another major, you could minor in DDMA. You can also minor in art, both studio art or art history. And you can also minor in the game and emergent technology group of courses. If you were like in biology, or if you were in engineering and you wanted to take some visualization courses, that would be an excellent combination. So that would be the game and emergent technology minor for that. But there are minors available if you did not want to actually major in what we do, just to be aware of that. We have a good amount of students at the university that do take art courses, just to give you a sense of what the community feels like. As you see, we're pretty consistently in the over 400 student range a year, an academic year, from all over the campus, not obviously just for the IM students, but for the DDMA students, but across campus, there's a lot of interest in art courses across the majors. Little history, right? We kind of started this off in 2005. We had this is the cleaned up version. I'm showing you down here, the little lab picture. So we started this in 2005, basically from scratch. We started out with a brief 9 machines, utilizing both, at the time we had few PCs and a bunch of Macs. Now we are mostly Macintosh platformed using the Adobe Creative Suite, along with a series of other softwares that deal with a little bit more niche applications such as 3D, interaction, gaming, web, etc. So we keep and continue to update our labs. We have several labs. The labs are card swipe access. Normally 24/7. Right now we're a little bit less than that, given that we're trying to keep most folks out of campus as much as possible, given our Corona protocol. But 24/7 access to both labs in normal situations. One main lab, we have 16 machines. The lab I'm in has 13. There's not any, there's no signing up for machines. There's none of that. There's pretty robust usage and access to the labs. Just give you a sense of some of our numbers. In 2019 and actually 2020, we are between 55 and 60 majors within the department, all spread out between different cognate minors, but the majority are in art. Second right now probably is game and emergent technology, honestly, and then a few scattered along marketing and comm and CS and English and some others, just to give you a sense of what the community looks like. And of course, there's Superman. He does not go.
And Superman.
And Superman, but he does not go here. An internship is part of the requirement, and we have students that have interned in many, many places. We do have an internship office here that it normally has an intern and job fair. Right now, we're suspending most of that on campus just because of the COVID protocol. But our internship office curates many of the internships. Sometimes Lisa or myself or one of the other professors will have connections in the industry that will reach out to us.
Yeah, we're finding, at least for the last few years, the majority of our internships are people that will either approach us, approach our department from the community or, from the design community that we're parts of, or come through connections that either myself or my colleagues have cultivated in our respective industries. So we're finding a great deal of success getting interns placed not only locally, but also nationally. And you can see that sort of reflected on our list here. But also our students have found a great deal of success finding their own internships via social media and things like that. So encouraging students to start to look at what the job landscape looks like through the lens of internships has been a really great way for them to experience what hiring is like and what communicating with potential employers is like. Because we have so much direct access now via social media. I know a number of our students pick up currently, as their students, pick up freelance work, professional freelance work through, connections they've made on Twitter or on LinkedIn or places like that. So, internships are very much, they're practice jobs. So, choosing an internship and finding an internship that's right for you, and in many cases doing multiple internships. Some students do more than one. are really great ways to sort of start to learn what the professional landscape looks like and tailor the work that you do to make yourself a little bit more marketable.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the far right, this is Chelsea. And Chelsea went out to the West Coast and did an internship at E-Entertainment. That was through one of the connections that I had. And these two photos here, Kyle's in the middle. He has his headset on. He was interning at one of the Promax BDA conferences, which is a professional organization that has a conference every year. And the one on the left here is a group of students that all interned that year. And in that year, they have student competitions along with industry competitions, and we won several awards that year for that show. The Kirby Scholars Program. I always let Lisa explain this one because there's an abbreviation that I never remember.
It's so funny because they see it in my social feed, and it's APKCFEE because it's the Alan P. Kirby Center for Free Enterprise and Entrepreneurship, which is a nightmare to say. Really? So most people just say the Kirby Center. And what this is, it's a standalone institute on campus that facilitates all forms of entrepreneurial activity. So people on campus or university, part of the university community that want to start businesses, and also businesses outside of the university community. They're interacting with the Kirby Center. They're actually considered clients of the Kirby Center. So they'll help them with legal services, marketing services, any sort of new business related activities that have to happen. And the Kirby Center will choose scholars from all majors across the university. And every year we have 1 to 2, I think we have 2 right now. We have Xavier Abdella, who is also a hockey player and is a Kirby Fellow, as well as Anna Perez, who is a transfer student. She transferred in from Wilkes University, who is the Assistant Kirby Fellow in Digital Design and Media Art. And both of them are super, super active with the center. It gives you really great real world experience. And it's actually it's a scholarship position. They call it a scholarship position. So it is a paid position. So it could function as a work study job or a way to pick up a little bit extra cash as well. So I can't recommend, I mean, the program is rigorous and these students do put in work, but they've seen tremendous results in that work from a networking standpoint and just from an experience standpoint. So, this is typically a junior or a senior kind of position. So obviously this isn't something you would consider, as an incoming first-year freshman, if that's your situation. But it's definitely a really solid opportunity, great resume builder, great way to sort of fill out that professional experience section as you move into the later years of your degree.
Studio 20, I'm going to let Lisa go on the roll.
Keep talking. So I am also the advisor of our campus, of our Studio 20, which is our in-major production club. So the students in our major will work directly with real-world clients, both on and off campus, on live production and creative jobs. So we have done everything from logo creation for clubs to promotion for 5K runs. We've created websites for people. We've created social media graphics and presences for people. Video, obviously our skill set moves into video and 3D and areas like that. So the students really get that experience of not only working on those jobs and having those opportunities to fill out their portfolio, but they also get the real world client interaction experience. And again, that's invaluable and really impossible for us to completely replicate in the classroom. So, that experience of communicating with the client and asking questions and learning what their needs are and all of those things, those are really important learning experiences that Studio 20 provides. And all of this work that we do also, by the way, is free of charge. So it is a service to the community.
So another great experience for our students to get hands-on and client work. So we want to talk a little bit about awards. Here's Kevin. So through one of our more senior project courses, Kevin had this idea to create a game. It was a tabletop card game called Planets the Game. And through the environment of that course, he was able to develop all the graphics for the cards, the whole theme of the game, and did the packaging. And actually he went out to do a website. So you can go to Planets the Game and buy this right now. But also Kevin submitted this for the 2017 Pennsylvania Consortium of Video Game Developers Tabletop Award in that year. So not only was it really successful that he was able to do it within the classroom environment, but it's something that he sells and makes money at, and he won an award for it too. So it's a lot of wins.
And one thing I want to bring up about planets while we're looking at planets. Do we look at planets more later, or is this our look?
No, no, we're probably going to turn it over to you to show you.
Okay. One thing I want to point out about planets, you guys, is that this is a great example of using all of the sort of different skill sets that you can acquire to create something. So Kevin created this game. So a lot of that had to go through, a lot of the process he had to go through was planning. He had to decide what the components were, what the pieces were, what the rules would be, how the game would play out. So the basic sort of structure and how the game works. He also did a significant amount of illustration. So he had to decide, what each planet would look like, what each weapon might look like, or all of the other sort of tools that were part of the game, and illustrate those things. He had to use his design sensibility and his color sensibility to create a system, so we would understand how to easily move through the game and how different parts of the game apply to different areas. He had to think through the idea of marketing and selling the game. So he created an e-commerce site that would be able to handle actual, like, the transaction of money, which is another sort of, from a development standpoint, another skill set. Typography obviously is involved in this whole situation. We need to know what the planets are and understand how the game works. So all of these factors, all of these things are skill sets that you gain as you move through your degree and as you move through your classes. And Kevin's game, Planets, is a great example of how all of those can sort of come together and holistically create a product that is marketable and useful and you can put out and put into the world.
I think he's doing okay with that, Planets, which I'm happy to say. Just a few others. We have our regional American Advertising Federation Awards, and here's several students that had gotten awards for over the last few years. You see Kevin again is showing up, but also Allison Dell and Steve.
We had two more this past year, actually, too, and we haven't had a chance to update with their pictures, but we had two more winners this year, both of them in the area of packaging design.
And who were those, Lisa?
That was Danielle Casey, who also, incidentally, was a transfer into our program, and Madison Kaminsky, whose work we'll look at in a little bit.
And Madison was also a Kirby Scholar.
Oh, yeah, she was a Kirby Scholar. Wow, it all connects.
This is a great competition that Lisa spearheaded, and I'm going to turn it back over to Lisa. But
right, so this is our second year entering it's called the DEIC Challenge through America 250 PA, which is an initiative of the state of Pennsylvania. And it's a statewide marketing competition. So schools from across the state of Pennsylvania are able to submit marketing campaigns based around a centralized theme. Last year it was the celebration of Pennsylvania as it relates to the 250th anniversary of our country's creation. This year the theme is about, Pennsylvania commerce and small business. So we were really, really fortunate through multiple rounds of competition to actually win the statewide competition. Over 200 students across the state of Pennsylvania participated, and our 6 kind of came out on top. So we're really, really proud of that win. And it also gave us a great opportunity for faculty-led collaborative research. A lot of people think that in creative fields and in art, we don't do traditional research. But a great deal of this project was pushing these students outside their comfort zone and learning about things like marketing plans and budgets and timelines and deadlines and all of these really important aspects of what we do. And they obviously killed it because they won. So it was a really great experience for our students, and one that's a little bit different than what they're used to. So I've made it a point where we just formed our team. We had our first team meeting on Friday, and we hope to have as good of a showing this year.
It was a nice job for sure. So here we're coming to kind of closer to the end of the presentation, really. And it's just to show you a little bit of where our students have gone over the years. And what you'll notice here is there's a lot of different titles and places. So as I said earlier in the talk, that a lot of our students are not all doing the same things. We're very much kind of customizing your path based on your skills, your interests, and all that kind of comes together as you look for a job. So, you know, we'll see students here that are doing, as I said, graphic-oriented work, video-oriented work, web stuff. It just kind of keeps rolling and going. Early in the time back in 2008, you know, now that was some of our first graduates. Now they're moving on to management positions, and they're interviewing some of our students, you know, to kind of perpetuate the cycle.
Actually, this person, Jeff Foreman up in the corner, hired one of our 2018 grads. So it's really starting to come full circle. And I mean, just to sort of name check a few of these really great places we have people working. Jess Gannon, she is at Wyden and Kennedy. And I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the ad campaign, Just Do It for Nike. That was Wyden and Kennedy. So, I mean, just so you kind of get an idea of the level of work that Jess is doing out there. And then you have Jared Nessie, who's actually, I think he just won an Emmy, a local Emmy down there for his work with the Weather Channel. But then you have people like Nona Martin, who started her own business. So we have a lot of entrepreneurial students. We have a lot of people who are doing work on their own, a lot of people who work at multiple sort of places that make up their work and their job. But just notice how diverse, I mean, every area of the country, here in Pittston, Pennsylvania, all the way out to Manhattan, to Philadelphia, to Tampa. I mean, this work can take you anywhere.
Yeah, and Chelsea that I mentioned earlier that was at E Entertainment, you'll see here, she's now in Austin, Texas as in a management position.
Cool.
Kind of cool. And as I said, once again, another slide just in terms of students. It's kind of chronological, so it starts back in when our first graduates, and then it kind of moves forward from there. Steve's down here at Wicked Cool Toys.
And Steve has a significant illustration background. I'm going to show you, when we look at some student work, I'm going to show you a student who also has a significant illustration background, and you can see how that might make a connection between something like a toy company or some other such industrial design company that makes physical things.
You know, wrapping up, here's our last grouping. And we have some updates actually to do from last semester.
Yeah, we didn't have the 2020 seniors. We
don't have the 2020 seniors on here yet. You know, we can certainly add Danny DeVito, who's out at Fox Sports in LA. Michaela, where's Michaela?
Michaela is at ENX2 Marketing, actually here in Wilkes-Barre. They're specialized in legal marketing.
You know, interesting, you know, from here all the way out to the West Coast in just one graduation cycle.
I know, right?
Pretty cool. So that was it for what I have. Does this generate any questions from you yet? Any of you?
No. It's great to hear that like you guys can rattle off people's names that have graduated like 5 years ago and know where they're at.
You cannot hide from us.
No, you can't. And that's my disclaimer.
No hiding from us. I will grab you on your way down the hall and ask you a question. Heather will recruit you for the gallery. Andy will chew your ear about games. You know, you will spend a number of hours in Eric's office. This is not a place where you can be hidden from us.
No. And actually, it's something I should have mentioned earlier. It's very true. I mean, as Lisa says, we have a lot of really strong connections with our students. You know, not only as they're here, but as they continue on and they go out into the real world. I'm happy to say and proud to say that they feel, for whatever reason, they want to continue to talk to us.
I'm having patio wine with a few of them next week. It's all very
nice. Nice. But that's kind of the relationship we have with our students. You can't hide. This is not a big university that you go in the back of the room. Nobody cares even if you're there. Very much we are engaging you at all times to participate in what we're doing. So very much important. And just to kind of wrap up our end of the way here, Lisa has a few student portfolios from their senior years. Is anyone interested in any area in particular?
I don't know enough yet to.
Okay, no, that's fair enough. Because sometimes, you know, somebody will say, "Oh, I'm really interested in brand design," and then we can pull up a student that says, "Okay, this student did this kind of thing." But
So I'm going to grab the
just
screen
fly with it.
from Eric here. And I'm going to take you through a few, three or four of our grads from just this past year, just a couple of their projects, not their full portfolios, because they have some really robust portfolios. This first one is the student that Eric mentioned, who is out actually at Fox Sports in LA, Danny DeVito. Not that one.
Not that Danny.
Like that one. He's like 6'7" and very blonde and young, and yeah, so it's not that Danny DeVito. But we actually did have a long conversation about his name and how he was going to brand himself and how he was going to put himself out into the world and what repercussions his name had. And so that was actually a bigger conversation than people realized. But obviously, you know, given Danny the where he ended, his focus has always been, you know, heavy sports. So this was actually a very early project that he did in his sophomore year. And he took it upon himself to do a rebrand of the Oklahoma City Thunder. And this was sort of born out of a challenge that was put forth on a website called Behance. And if you haven't checked it out, I would suggest you do. It's an aggregate of graphic design work from designers and illustrators and artists from all over the country. And they post on there. It's almost like a little social media of art and design. And a few other people were sort of taking on this challenge of redesigning this team. So Danny jumped on the bandwagon. And what was a great experience for him with this one is he got to look at a brand from a holistic standpoint. So not only is it just a change of a logo and then you call it a day, there's multiple versions of uniforms to consider. There's multiple licensed apparel options to consider. And there's also the physical site. There's the actual court and how that interacts with the brand as well. So that was a great exploration for him. And I think it helped him a lot in his eventual career path.
And Lisa, I'm going to jump in just for a second. As Danny was doing his senior year, he did an independent study with me to animate that Kansas City Thunder logo, or Oklahoma City, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that right? Yeah, Oklahoma City Thunder. So he took this idea that he did early in his career and then felt he needed a motion piece to add to the breadth of this brand. And he did a motion graphics piece that animated that logo, which was really cool to see this, you know, kind of bookended the whole project for us.
Yeah, this next one, so Danny also did an internship with our university's athletic department. And it was a really great opportunity because at that moment in time, the university was in a branding transition. It was a big transition across university-wide from one identity to another. So athletics didn't really have its own identity at that point. It didn't have any visual identity that was like holding it together. So Danny was able to be really instrumental in establishing the look and feel of the program. And one thing I think he did really well was sort of elevated the prestige of our program. You know, we're a Division III school for athletics, which means none of our students are going pro. They're playing sports because they love to play and because they feel it enriches their lives. But if you look at what we have here and the way that Danny is representing these teams, I mean, this looks like it could be, you know, Notre Dame, or it could be Michigan State. You know, I mean, he really elevated the perception of the athletics program through the work that he did.
It's the power of what we do.
But we will never not take you guys to task, and we will never allow you to sort of just sit on the things that you're good at. So we pushed him quite a bit to push himself outside of just a skill set in athletic design. It was really important to me, at least, that Danny left our university with a diverse skill set. And even if that's what he wanted to pursue and eventually did end up getting a job in, he still shouldn't be a one-dimensional designer. So we really pushed him towards projects like this one, like Cake of Spades. He created this whole brand around a bakery, and it's sort of being, you know, playing card themed, and it would be more of like a gathering place where you could go instead of going to the bar with your friends, you go for cupcakes, which sounds amazing. So I think this is a really great example of us really pushing you outside of just letting you do what you're comfortable with and letting you do what you are excited about.
And Lisa, I explained this, I talked to one of my classes about Danny and why this was so important for him to do, because it really validated his design skills outside of just the regurgitation of sports stuff.
Yeah.
So if I'm an employer and I'm looking at this, I'm going, wait a minute, this guy really can design because he understands things outside of his comfort zone in his normal world.
Mm-hmm.
Very important.
And Danny also is an example of somebody who really pushed outside of the university and into the social media space for jobs and internships. So this was an internship that he actually got himself at the Washington Nationals. So it was, you know, it was a hard experience for him. This was not an easy internship, and I don't think it was what he expected it to be. But I think he learned a lot about working as part of a team, about what it means to have a boss in a creative function, what it means to have limits to what you're allowed to do. And there's accountability in production, and there's accountability to the legal department. And like this Avengers poster down here made it almost all the way to posting and never actually got out to see the light of day because Marvel's legal department is very litigious. But, but you can see how, you know, having that experience and going through something that, you know, wasn't what he expected and wasn't what he thought it was going to be, definitely improved his work and improved his work ethic and his process and made him a better designer and a better creative for sure. Let's see, I'm going to jump to someone a little bit different now. And this is Louis Brennan. And I'm showing you all of, they make a personal brand. Everybody makes a personal brand in your capstone year. So that's the first screen that I'm showing you for everybody's work. But this is Louis Brennan, and Louis he's got a really interesting skill set because he is exceptionally talented in illustration, but he's also extremely gifted in 3D modeling and rendering. So he's a neat guy. And this first project, you can see a lot of the work that he did in illustration. So this is a set of movies, a set of, I believe it was DreamWorks movies or something, that he felt really strongly about, and he wanted to redo all of the covers. So you can see he used his own personal illustration style to create a really beautiful, really consistent, minimalist, more minimalistic sort of look at these iconic movies. Louis also worked really closely with another student to do character development for a game. So they came up with this idea of this folklore-based video game, did significant research into the facial structures and the body structures of the characters, into their clothing based off of their own sort of folklore. Because I think this is, who are these people, Eric? I forget who everybody is.
Oh, don't ask me that.
This one is like, so they're, who's the one with the ox? He has an axe and they bathe the blue ox. Oh my God, I'm
drawing a blank.
These folklore characters.
It's Paul Bunyan.
Paul Bunyan, yes, Paul Bunyan. So characters like that, that's what these characters are sort of based off of, these folklore heroes. So they're doing research into their clothing and the styles that they would be wearing, their facial styles. So you're seeing all of this rendered, and then they rendered them in 3 dimensions to see how that changes what they created, and edits that they would have to make and changes that they would have to make to take it from 2 dimensions to 3. Louis also used his skills to move into the sports space, but he did it in maybe a little bit less of a traditional way. This is just one of the several esports teams that he created. So these are fictitious esports teams where he created the logos. He created basically the universe. So there's 5 or 6 different teams that he made, the personas of the teams, the colors, the typography, and the illustration and promotion of those teams. So I think one of the coolest things about design and about the way Louis approaches design is you can apply it to anything that you're passionate about. He's somebody that really, really loved gaming. So he was able to take the skills that he has and the work that he does and apply it to something that he feels really strongly about.
And Lisa, I'm going to say too, just kind of thinking through the process, right? So Louis would take photos of folks, and you could see that on the poster on the right. So those are some of his friends. He would take those photos, then he would illustrate those by hand. He would scan those in, get them to a digital format, then do all the layout and add the typography. So, you know, as we were talking about earlier, all those skills that go in, he liked to take photographs. Madison likes to take photographs. We have students that like to do things and they incorporate those likes into their work. That's their superpower, right? Their ability to do those other things.
And then Louis also, I mean, as I said, he's an illustrator and he's someone that's really into the sort of comic book culture. So he did all of these illustrations of these comic book characters and wasn't really sure what to do with them or how to use them. So he made himself an e-commerce site. He built a website to sell his t-shirts. It's called Louis Bustin' Tees. It's really funny.
LB's Bustin' Tees. LB's Bustin'
It's really funny. But you know, you can go and you can buy, you know, his Joker tee. And that's just, again, you know, I mentioned it, I touched on it a little bit, but you'll find, I think, in creative fields, it doesn't always work the same way as it does in other fields. Like, you don't just go to school to be a teacher, become a teacher, and then you are a teacher and that's your job and you live the rest of your life. In many cases, we're pulling together a number of different sources of income and sources of revenue. And we don't work, we may not work traditional schedules, and we may not work 9 to 5s, and we may not have one source of where our paycheck is coming from. In some cases, there's multiple. So I think Louis is a great example of just the hustle and the way he applies what he loves and what he's passionate about, what he loves to do, to supporting himself. Let's see, I'm going to show you Maddie because I don't want to run out of time. Michaela will go last if we have time for her. But Madison Kaminsky, as Eric said, was a Kirby scholar. So Madison was very, very focused and very, very methodical in the way she worked. As Eric said, she was very, very into photography. So I want to pull in really quickly, though. This is an identity that she did for a live client. So this was a client of the Kirby Center who wanted to start a food truck that was based off of Belgian food. I guess this person really is good at making Belgian food. So she created this beautiful identity, knowing that she was going to then move down, and we haven't seen that work finished quite yet, but you know, knowing that she was going to then create a whole entire vehicle wrap for the food truck, right? So food trucks, as we know, have really eye-catching graphics. They park in places where they need to be seen really easily. So all of those sort of factors are being taken into consideration as Madison is creating this identity for an actual live client. So this will be work that exists in the world. This is a piece that this is actually the piece she won the award for. So she won an American Advertising Federation award for this piece. And this was a package design that she conceived, illustrated, and created. And again, we're looking at different applications for the skill of illustration. We're looking at photography, we're looking at Photoshop work, we're looking at the mock-up aspects that she made. We're looking at typography and the creation of a brand that can be extended out into multiple different products. So it may just look like 3 soda cans, but there's quite a bit of consideration and quite a bit of different tools that need to come together to create something like this. Again, a lot of our students are creating identities, and you know, I think Maddie actually shot this photo too, because you know, as Eric said, she's got strong skills in photography. So when she was creating her portfolio, we looked for any possible opportunity to include her photography into her artwork as well, so she could show sort of all of those skill sets. And the last one we have to look at here is Michaela. As we said, Michaela was recently hired at a company called ENX2, and they specialize in marketing for the legal industry. So she's doing a lot of ad content and web content for that particular niche industry. But Michaela is somebody who has who has skill in a number of different areas. So when you see her work, she has a good deal of illustration, like we're seeing here in her book covers. She recreated covers for classic novels. But we're also seeing a lot of organizational and analytical skill from Michaela. This is an infographic that she created for a fictitious organization that helps women get education. So through scholarships and through advocacy work. This organization would help women, you know, attain education. So she's using typography, organizational skills, grid layout and mapping, color, all of these things to create a piece of information that could be really, really useful for a nonprofit. And that's what we talk about when we talk about digital content creation. We are a very valuable resource right now. People that make content are a very, very valuable commodity. All of the videos that you see, all of the ads that you see, all of that stuff that you consume on a daily basis on your computer and on your television and, you know, on your phone and everywhere, is designed by somebody, is made by somebody. And that's what we do. We make the things. So as you move through your career, no matter where you end up, if you end up at Wilkes or somewhere else, I hope that you remember that we're a very valuable skill. We're people that have a very valuable skill. And if we're able to cultivate that skill and you're able to properly market that skill, that's something that could be really, really marketable and useful for you when you become a 22-year-old looking for a job. Michaela was also very, very strong in Photoshop. So this is an image that is a composite of 4 different other images that she created it's a poster that she created to promote Post Malone's new album. She was a big Post fan. So you're seeing, again, people combining things they're passionate about. She did this project as kind of like a practice. So to sort of hone her Photoshop skills, get a little bit better at that software management. And then the last project is some packaging for a tequila brand that she created. And this is another really good example of the research that goes into the work that we do. She didn't know, you know, when she was assigned the project, she didn't really know how she was going to approach it, and then looked a little bit further into symbols that were used by Aztec cultures and was able to, you know, try to mimic the illustration style or the rendering style of those significant animals that had some specific meaning to the Aztec people. So making those connections and making those color connections, making those illustration and style connections and those conceptual connections, all of that comes from the research that Michaela did before she even started clicking around in Illustrator. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop that share. I'm gonna end on a high note.
And that's right, nice. Well, everybody, we're getting close to the end of our time. Do you have questions about anything, or would you like to see anything else, or listening to the crowd?
I don't think I have many questions. You see a lot of, in those portfolios, it's like all digital and graphic design within, like, I guess it's with the integrative digital design, you're doing a lot of digital work. Do you see any like studio work with just painting or illustration and anything like that too?
Yeah, I think what we say is use your strengths. You know, if you have a certain thing that you can do, incorporate those things into this kind of product line. So when we showed you Steve, Steve could illustrate really well. So he used his illustrations in a lot of what he did, in his logo design and his posters. And then when he went on to his first job at the Lehigh Valley Phantoms, he illustrated a lot of work, did some, you know, award-winning work with the Phantoms, but he utilized a lot of those skill sets. So we always say, you know, utilize the things that you can do and incorporate those really well into the stuff that kind of makes the full range of things that we can do in terms of content creation.
And I think that the other thing too, as you sort of learn more about how these things come to be, the studio practice for a designer, although it's very different than a studio artist, the concept of it is still the same. We're still spending time, we're still doing studies, we're still moving through the problems in a very similar way that a studio artist would. It's just that our work may use different tools or different mediums and may have a different sort of end application. But the devotion of time to things like research, to the time like sketching, and the development of art is absolutely the same. We approach the work in a very similar way.
Did that help a little bit, Liv?
Yeah.
Certainly. Anything else for anyone? I mean, it doesn't mean this is our last opportunity to talk. Certainly, you know, all of us are willing and would like you to contact us if you have more questions. And as I said, we are here for as a resource to help you make decisions the best you can in your, education to your career paths.
Yeah, I mean, we know better than anybody that the path to creative careers isn't always as clear as the path to other careers. There is 100% a path. It is there. It's not that hard, but it's a little bit more confusing. It can be a little bit more confusing or intimidating than some other more cut and dry ones. So if you end up having any questions after we leave this call, or even weeks from now, where you're just and even if you don't end up at Wilkes, if you just want more clarification in how to become a professional creative and what the path to that looks like, please feel free to reach out, because there's nothing that breaks my heart more than when someone doesn't go into a creative field because they think it's unattainable, or they think that they're going to be poor, or they think that they're going to be starving artists. Those are not real. Those are tropes. They're just weird things that have happened over the years that are not true. But it sometimes you could benefit from a little bit of guidance in this area. So if there's any questions that you have, or the things that you're curious about, please feel free to reach out. I never want to see somebody end up at a place or a major or anything that's wrong for them. You should always try to find the major, the program, and the school that's right for you personally.
I don't think we could say that any better. So I'm going to wrap it on that for sure. Well, thank you for coming to our presentation. And if you do have questions, like we said, give a holler. Thank you to Professor Sienkiewicz and Wren, and of course, Professor Reynolds. Good to have a little bit of a dialogue with you all, and thank you for coming.
Thanks, everyone. Nice to meet you.
Bye-bye.